Welcome, everyone. I'm Karen Levert, and I'd like to welcome you to our panel, AgTech and Industry Transformed. You may or may not know that North Carolina's #1 revenue source is agriculture. We're generating over $90 billion a year. So I'm excited to be moderating this panel today. I have two awesome folks that you will have the pleasure of hearing from, Dr. Jade Stinson and Dr. William Amutis. So what we'll do is I'm going to give brief introductions on their backgrounds, and then we'll let them talk about what they do every day at Vindara and the Food Innovation Lab. And then we'll have questions. If you happen to have, I'll be asking them questions, but if you have questions, understand on your panel, you'll be able to include them there. And we only have 30 minutes, so hopefully we can get to all of them. If not, we'll find a way to get your questions answered. So without any further ado, I'll start with Dr. Jade Stinson. She serves as the Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder at Vindara. Before that, she was the Chief Scientific Officer of the Venture Development Group, the AgTech Accelerator. And she sourced transformational technologies there, as well as provided scientific diligence for investments. Before that, and we're going to talk a little bit about these shifts, but she was at BASF, and she was served as technology management and also head of global operations for their professional and specialty solutions business. She holds a PhD in analytical chemistry from the University of Manchester in UK. You'll hear her beautiful accent when she starts talking. She also holds an MBA from Manchester Business School in the UK, as well as an MS in instrumentation and analytical science, and a BS in biomedical science. So you can see she's well equipped for what she's working on. And now on to Dr. Amutis. He's currently the executive director of the North Carolina Food Innovation Lab. Now, this is managed by NC State University, and it's located in Kannapolis. I had the pleasure of visiting their facility about a year ago, and you'll be impressed with what he has to say about it. It's 15,000 square foot facility, and I understand probably in the elite company of being only one of its kind in the country. Bill retired from Cargill in September 2018. He must not have had enough, because then he jumped into the position at NC State. But I met Bill the first time when he was working at Cargill, and he was a research fellow and global director of external innovation for Cargill. So he's seen a lot of great innovations. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in food science at Purdue University, and he has his master and doctorate degrees from Virginia Tech and State University in the food science department. So with that, I'm going to go to the panel. Jade, let's just start with you. If you can just talk for a couple of minutes and let us know a little bit more about Vindara, and then Bill, you can take off when she's finished. I'll just let you both.
Yeah, Thanks. Good morning. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so, Karen alluded to, previously before working at Vindara as part of a venture group that was really sourcing early stage companies. And that group both had strategic investors and then venture investors. And, some of those are in the area. So we have Bayer and Syngenta, and then Alexandria, so the RIA. And then we have the venture investors, Hatteras and Pappas. So, they kind of challenged us to look at, bridging this gap at the very, very early stage. So really pre-seed, seed investments. And it was technology focused scouting across both the science of farming and the business of farming. And one of those thesis areas was novel farming systems. So I spent about a year doing diligence with the team in the space, looking at all the different types of form factors, the technologies, the complete value chain. And we learned pretty quickly that, the seeds that goes into these sophisticated systems are, bred for very different environments. So low tech, glass house, greenhouse, or even outdoor environments. So now you think about, this genotype times environment, and you've got such great control over this E piece. Can you breed specific varieties that really, really unlock this sector? So we founded Vindara in June 2018 on this really idea of, could we be the elite genetics provider specifically for these systems? And, Vindara, the name itself, so the VIN stands for vertical indoor. And everybody has different terminologies. We kind of say under, artificial light, controlled environment, agriculture. And then Dara is, for oak tree. So, the strength of vertical indoor. So, our real kind of value prop for what we do is we don't do any genetic manipulation. We leverage technologies around deep machine learning and analytics to collapse this traditional breeding cycle, which typically would take you 5 to 7 years. And we're able to do that in 18 months. So our first product that we've developed is a high yield, dark green, crispy romaine that we're out now trialing with global partners. And it's our goal to make that a commercial product next year. We have other things in the pipeline, but I'll turn it over to Bill.
Okay, thanks, Jade. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Karen. So North Carolina Food Innovation Lab, or NC-PHIL as we call it, of which I'm the executive director, is a partnership between the state of North Carolina, the Department of Agriculture, and the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, as well as NC State University. NC State is the managing partner, as Karen mentioned. We are a plant-based focused facility that has a 10,000 square feet pilot plant that operates under current good manufacturing practices, which means that the food that we produce in our facility could be sold at the retail level directly to the consumer in fairly limited quantities. Of course, with a 10,000 square foot facility, you can't produce thousands and thousands of pounds in a day in that facility, but we can at least turn out about 1,000 pounds of a finished product. We also have a nice 3,500 square foot product development laboratory along with a commercial kitchen so that we can do product development in the areas of confectionery, bakery, beverages, prepared meals, meat analogs, and various other food categories that are important right now in the plant-based world, including cheese analogs now that are becoming very popular. We can work with customers that are entrepreneurs. That was the intention of building the facility, was to attract entrepreneurs that are interested in building in North Carolina, and therefore hiring our citizens as employees. But we also work with multinational food companies, as this plant-based food area has really just exploded. It was already getting a lot of attention over the last 5 years. The past 9 months during COVID, though, it's gone way more than double digit in growth. And so we're in the right place at the right time. We can work with a company all the way from ideation to the retail level. And we've seen where entrepreneurs need a lot of help on both ends of that spectrum, whereas the multinationals come in, they've already got an idea and probably already an idea of their process, and they work with us then to get a product process aligned so that they can get a product out.
Very good. Thanks for the backgrounds on your companies. And Bill, there at the Food Innovation Lab, and then with your experience too at Cargill in external innovation, and Jade, both of you have been around a lot of wonderful emerging technologies. Can you talk to us a little bit about maybe a couple of your favorite technologies or ideas outside of things that you're working on now?
Okay, good. I'll let you start.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because Bill is obviously talking about plant-based proteins, and that was the one thing that's really, really exciting. So whether it be meat analogs or plant-based proteins, I've been watching this space, and I tried to do a spin out within the accelerator, but I didn't have the traction at the time. But I think if you're watching the space, everybody's now probably seen Beyond Meat, and you've maybe eaten an Impossible Burger. But it doesn't end there, right? We're talking about insect protein, and that being added to animal feedstocks, and also I've seen recently they're adding insect protein to pet food, and then you think about sushi and fish. Like there's these analogs now that are coming along, like Blue Nalu, that are really like bridging this gap in that. So of course, like there's that piece, but, I think, with all these advances in technology around genotyping, molecular modeling, and this ability to kind of, not pay a lot to basically deal with big data. You don't use big server farms or anything anymore. So you can, use with Amazon Web Services and create these full genomes. It's really unlocking a lot of technologies for the ag application and food application. We have somebody in the same space that I work in called biomilk. So, they're using a molecular approach to make mother's milk as a supplement. And then, more recently, I think there's another company that has the same idea that have been founded in Singapore called Turtle Labs. So I think, it's this, food as a drug type thing, which is like, what we do, Vindara. It's like, given this ability for nutritious food. We're not replacing outdoor agriculture. We're just, supplementing it. And there's, for everybody to have access to nutritious food. I think that's really our goal.
Yeah, and I'd follow up to say, we've been seeing and monitoring similar developments. I'd probably go a little bit more even to some of the technologies we've been seeing. We're seeing a lot more activity in the ability to extract compounds from various plant sources or even animal sources, but mostly in the plant area. Part of that's being driven by the cannabis and CBD companies that are out there right now. So we're starting to see a lot of new novel stainless steel coming out. A lot of the traditional things that we've utilized to make even meat analogs like twin screw extruders are now coming into what I would call the third and fourth generations of some of this equipment. Combining some of these ingredients that we're utilizing to do a clean label product or a plant-based product in general to replace something is requiring some very specialized equipment even for mixing. And putting things together and holding it in a stable situation. So we've seen quite a bit of new technologies coming from that perspective. Of course, now with the cellular revolution upon us and all the work going on with structured biology, we're starting to follow quite a bit of what's going on in the fermentation area, as well as the ability to cell culture products and harvest protein by that method.
Super. We had a question come in that I think, Bill, I'm going to go ahead and read it to you because I think it dovetails nicely when we're talking about new technologies. And the question is there a move to create some kind of statewide access to commercial kitchens? This is one of the biggest challenges for new food entrepreneurs.
There's actually several kitchens available in the state now. There's one in Orange County, there's one here in Charlotte. There's one out towards Asheville. Getting access into those it's been a challenge as I've been hearing it. It's kind of a chicken and an egg consequence. A lot of times we had built these kitchens a few years ago and they sat empty, and now all of a sudden they're full and people are truly clamoring to try to get time in them. We've been approached by 4 different entrepreneurs just in this area in the last 2 weeks. About utilizing our facility as a kitchen to produce product that they already have in the retail case. It is a little bit of a problem. Some of these kitchens are also, I will say that we have to be careful about the food safety perspective there because entrepreneurs, God bless them, we love working with them, but a lot of them have no clue when it comes to food safety. And we don't want to harm anybody out there, but yet we still want to put out nutritious food. So I don't think we'll see any new commercial kitchens being built, at least not with state monies. We may see some private monies.
Thanks, Bill. This conference is about rethinking, resetting. You both have made major changes in your careers, both in big corporate positions and shifting to food innovation lab, Jay to the early stage company. Can you talk a little bit about what caused you to do that? Was there an impetus or anyone influence you? Jade, we'll have you start.
Yeah, sure. I think everybody has different career aspirations and, people are motivated by different things. And, I joined BSF, for what I thought was going to be, like my career, and that was going to be it. And I was going to work my way through the organization, which I was lucky enough to do for 10 years, and I got to be in several roles across different businesses. I mean, I worked in Germany for a short amount of time, and then I remember getting, when you get to your 10-year anniversary and you receive this certificate that comes into your office, and I was sat there and I was thinking, oh wow, I've been here 10 years and I'm on this track, and if I was here for another 10 years, could I look back and say, why didn't you look at something else, or why didn't you try something else, or would you like to try something else? And I've always gravitated, even within BSF, to the innovative projects. And I worked on a newer bioacrylamide process. I worked on a specialized remote monitoring for termite, and I really love the kind of early innovation. And it's tough jump, to think that you've got this kind of job for life, so to say, and you get this nice 401 match, and to really like jump ship and go into the world of startups, which is completely different. You get all the accountability. It's very high risk. There's definitely been times where I haven't known I'm going to get a paycheck the next month. But I think I've met so many great people and so many great minds, and I've had great mentors around me, which have given me really, really good advice. So yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted to being an entrepreneur. And when you've got a family to support, it's it kind of makes you question. But I think we're not in ag because we are motivated by money. We're motivated from kind of like a higher source motivation. And so I think that to step out and do something I thought that I could have individually as part of a smaller team, like a bigger impact. I think as trying to improve the food system, which is what motivates me and drives me, and so it's those things that keep me up at night and not worrying about my next paycheck.
Yeah, I'd say my situation was a little different. I'm sort of in the September of my career, but I was approached by Dean Rich Linton of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at NC State a few years ago. In fact, I'd just come off a trip from around the world, and Rich had given me a call and asked to meet me for dinner in Charlotte, and proceeded at dinner to tell me all about this opportunity with the Food Processing Innovation Center, as it was called originally, that they were trying to build here. And Rich kind of hem-hawed around, so he asked me if I had anybody in mind. I said, well, I can give you some names. And Rich kind of laughed. He said, no, you're the guy we want. So he said, my first response was, well, Rich, are you crazy? I've got 35 years in industry. It's for me to now be thinking about this when I'm planning on retiring in a year or two. But as I took a step back and looked at it, I said, all the training that a lot of the fine companies I've worked for, that they had paid for to me to be trained, and then the work that we had done out in the field with entrepreneurs and everything, I felt that this was a great way to kind of capstone my career and build something of value and importance to the state of North Carolina. We had moved to North Carolina a couple of years before I took this job, so we were already here, and I'd already fallen in love with the state, so to speak, and felt that I wanted to give something back to the state. So the opportunity to work with entrepreneurs and multinational food companies across a number of different product categories really became very attractive to me. Plus, frankly, I was a little tired of traveling 200 to 250,000 miles a year in the air, and so it was time to maybe get my feet on the ground as I looked at my September of my career and wished maybe I was back in the June or July. But that's where I'm at today.
Oh, super. Both of those responses, I'm sure there are people in the audience that could be saying, I kind of feel the same way or have the same opportunities. So it's not life and death. Sometimes it may feel that way afterwards, but take the plunge. There's a question in the chat. I'll go ahead. What kind of, and either one of you can answer this, what kind of regulatory issues should early stage food developers consider, like FDA, EPA, USDA?
FDA is the lead one, of course. Unless you're doing a meat product, then you've got to deal with USDA, or an egg product even with USDA. But FDA is the big regulatory agency. And when you start peeling back the onion a little bit, the Food Safety Modernization Act has really changed the world for all food manufacturers, and entrepreneurs now fall under that act also. So we try to, as we start working with entrepreneurs, we go beyond the the usual questions about how do you want to position your product in the market, who's your target audience, all of that sort of thing. Then we start asking them what do they know about the Food Safety Modernization Act and what requirements they have to meet there. The other thing that's becoming very tough, and that's working with the Federal Trade Commission, is on labeling, because labeling requirements are changing. They've changed again in the last month, and they're going to change again probably in another year. The other thing with the Food Safety Modernization Act going on is that COVID has changed some things that I think are going to stick around even after we have a vaccine. So there's going to be a lot of changes in this industry, and it's a little bit of a tidal wave for everybody right now.
Thank you. Another question for either one of you, and we may not have an answer to this, but is there development, innovation around for aquaponics, operators for fish more profitable, safer, higher yield, proper nutrition than tilapia? Is this small scaling farming, aquaponics, being nurtured in North Carolina? I don't know if either of you have an answer to that.
I don't know about North Carolina, but I can address some of the work that I'm aware of that's going on around the world in that area from my time with Cargill. It's beyond tilapia today. We're doing sea bass, we're doing trout, we're doing salmon, both indoors and outdoors. So the aquaponics area is growing rapidly. I would say that one of the things that surprised me when I started working in that area about 5-6 years ago now was that our lack of nutritional information on the fish species. As I started moving into that area, looking at companies we wanted to acquire when I was with Cargill, I sat down with one of our aquaculture nutritionists and I said, is it just me because I'm stupid in this area, or is the knowledge we have about raising fish back where we were at in the early 60s with cattle and poultry? And they said, no, you're spot on. Now, it's accelerated here the last few years because of the interest in aquaculture and aquaponics. But I still think we're way far behind. We probably know more about how to feed our cats and dogs than we do about feeding fish.
Super. Okay, let's move to COVID and its impact. Yeah, I don't want to make light of the situation from the economic and both the personal loss we've experienced with COVID. However, I think we've all experienced some things that have been helpful and things that have not been favorable at all. Can you talk about how it's impacted your businesses? Jade, we'll start with you.
Yeah, we're early stage, so we were kind of like doing a roadshow at the beginning of the year to raise our Series A, our next financing price round. And you're looking for a lead, and typically the diligence process is very iterative, and even to get the deals done, it can take 6 to 9 months. So getting those early conversations and meeting the team and the facilities, so that just came to a straight halt. Which was really difficult. I think even the funds themselves were worried, and we didn't know how it was going to impact the capital markets to their current portfolio and how to manage that. So they just pushed pause, which of course didn't help us. We're still operating, we still have a burn. So you have to pivot and think about other investment vehicles, whether it be debt or convertible notes. So we had to pivot quickly on that. So that was challenging. I think it's challenging to not be, especially when you're in a small team, to not have that human interaction. You do get, I tend to think that we get a lot more done, when we're kind of all together, huddled around, and, kind of do these skunk work type things. And we have a problem, we get together and we also, give our ideas. So that's definitely, hit a bump in the road. And as much as, these Zoom calls, I do get Zoom fatigue. And I think my computer is like one click away from being fried. So I'm running these these video calls and these presentations at like 30 gigs at the same time. But the industry itself is a little bit polarized. We have customers who serve retailers who've done great, but then we have customers who serve food service, which is a couple of them have gone under, and some of them have been very constrained if they don't have a lot of capital needs. So yeah, it's been very, polarized when we've been talking to partners. Some of them have done really well, and some of them have had to pivot, into retail. But I think, overall, looking forward, thinking about food as a drug and food safety and food security, which have, all come to kind of the forefront with COVID. It definitely solidifies controlled environment agriculture as a sustainable solution going forward. So I think in the long run it'll be better for the sector, but it has hurted people at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with Jade. There's been too many Zoom conference calls over the past 9 months for sure. I think we're all suffering Zoom fatigue. We've been working with a lot of entrepreneurs as they get their pitches ready to go, look for capital, and we've modified a few of them as we've met with some of our clients and said let's address the whole human safety issue and how you can be a little bit more nimble and quicker to the marketplace. And those are some of the changes we've seen across the industry. I mean, even the big major food companies now have to go back and look at some of their platforms on the net of how to help people shop for new products. Used to be you could do in-store displays and feed people your product, get them excited that way. That's gone right now. It may or may not return after all of this is over. But so you have to find now new ways in order to get people to try your product. We had one small beverage company that actually sent out 100 samples to people with a two-page questionnaire about the product. We got pretty good feedback from the people that did receive the product and gave us some direction to help them. One of the things that we've noticed is that there's a little bit of a psychological stress with your people. Our team in particular, we had a close call about a week ago. One of our people was twice removed from a COVID patient. And we worked closely with our environmental health and safety personnel and still put our person in quarantine for 2 weeks, even though we probably didn't need to. She had tested negative. But just out of safety and security, we went ahead and did that to protect the rest of the team. I'm obviously a little bit higher risk with my age, so I really appreciated the fact that we did that. I think I mentioned it earlier, the daily health checks, and now recording that we are doing our health checks, we are doing our elevated levels of sanitation and disinfection. We're recording everything every day. Creates a little bit more paperwork that's a little bit burdensome, but from a human safety perspective, it's the right thing to be doing. I don't think that will go away. I think part of the Food Safety Modernization Act will adopt some of those principles and keep us doing it going forward.
Thank you. Well, we've got just a few minutes left. I just really appreciate both of you, your advice, feedback, more information on your backgrounds. I learned something more too. I'll be in touch with both of you. Is there anything else, just in closing, that you may want to just add? Otherwise, we can end. And I think we're done with pretty much with the questions. There's one I'll just send back to NCID. I think it's better answered on that end.
Yeah, I mean, will maybe make a comment on, the emerging technology that's coming through in ag. I think if you look at, 10 years ago in 2010, the venture kind of model investing into really early stages around 320 some million. And last year it was 4.1 billion. So that growth is like 32%. That's a pretty aggressive CAGR, and it's only improving with time. So, ag's been around for a long time, but I always feel like the technology gets to it last. You get human medicine, there's defense and the military. And I think now we're at this really pivotal point, and we need the talent. We need people to kind of serve the sector. And I think this area and North Carolina is poised to bring great things. I think there's Rise of the Rest by Steve Case is a book. So it looks at investments into areas outside of Silicon Valley and Boston, and I think we definitely fit in this area into that. So anybody thinking about joining the startups, there's so many startups in this area in ag. Look around and do your homework, and there's a lot of great opportunities for seasoned people who've had careers in in corporate, and then also fresh grads coming out of school as well.
I would say something similar. And one thing I would recommend to people is if you have a hankering to be an entrepreneur, don't be afraid to go back and look at ideas that may have been around even 15 or 20 years ago that maybe were ahead of their time. good example of that is, we had worked on hybrid beet products when I was at Cargill 15 years ago now. Probably we worked on that product, and we're ready to launch basically a 50-50 type product with plant-based protein and 50% real meat. Those ideas are now happening. They're in the marketplace today. So don't be bashful about going back and looking at something that may have been tried a number of years ago and failed, but maybe time to bring it back. We're seeing a lot more in the plant-based food area, as well as foods that stimulate the immunity and give a healthy perspective to the consumer.
Amen to all of that. I used to say, well, devices and therapies were life and death, but really food and water is. And so with that, thanks everyone. And it's been a great conference. We hope the audience continues to enjoy it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.